Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Life Stories Unscripted podcast. I'm your host, Viviane, and I'm a doula, breastfeeding specialist, and a mama coach. And I talk about everything related to preconception, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and everything in between. So if you're a parent or you're trying to be one, this is the podcast for you. So stay tuned. Today, I have a recurring guest, Annie Baxter from Brisbane, who will share with us her amazing birth stories. She has 4 children, so there's a lot to cover. Stay tuned. If you've seen some of my previous episodes and you like them, please hit the subscribe button now so me and you can share Annie's wisdom together. Last but not least, this podcast is sponsored by Perfecta Placenta located in Beverly Hills, which is a placenta preserving company. So if you would like your miracle organ to be preserved and get a stretch mark cream and a diaper bag as a gift from me, use my promo code Doula Viviane. And for more information, I can be reached either via Facebook or LinkedIn under my name, Viviane Shima, or via my Gmail address, which is birthbyviviane@gmail.com. So let me hear from you. I'm excited. Without any further ado, let's talk to Annie. Enjoy. Annie, thank you so much for being here. This is the second time. I'm very, very excited. I know we haven't had time last time to dive into your birth stories, but rather how to be mindful. So I'm very excited. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome, and I'm just as excited to see you again, Viviane. And I love mums and bubs and being a mother myself, so I've certainly got my birth stories to share with you, as I do have 4 children.
Amazing. Well, how do you feel about just starting and just diving into it?
Sure.
Awesome.
Well, when I think of my first one, I birthed Eamon, my older boy, in 1997, and it was in a lovely centre called the Birth Centre. I had a pretty well pregnancy. I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes, so that required me to take some blood samples from my finger to check my sugar levels, because they are concerned about having a large baby when you've got gestational diabetes. So sometimes the insulin doesn't work as well to maintain your sugar levels when you've got gestational diabetes. So I had to monitor my levels of blood glucose and also watch what I was eating so that I wasn't obviously eating the wrong foods to build up the weight of the baby. But as far as that pregnancy goes, I worked pretty well up to 38 weeks with that pregnancy. Um, we did have a little bit of a scare because there was some sort of suspicion that I could be having a Down syndrome little baby.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And so we had some further tests. And even though my gut was telling me that wasn't the case, it's just another thought process, isn't it? And a set of emotions that you talk about with your partner if you know you're having a child who's going to experience a disability. So that was another factor. But that all became clear. And yeah, so the labour went pretty well. I knew the midwife before I actually went into the birth. And being a midwife myself, I felt like I knew a little bit of what was going on, obviously with all the knowledge and skills that I'd had previously. However, when you're actually in that situation, I remember I was in my kitchen when I went into labour, and we just finished painting a room, believe it or not. You know, there's always something you're doing when
Yeah.
you thought you were just going to relax and sleep the night. But no, it was all happening, and the contraction started, and we had our little doggy at the time who was following us around, going, "What's going on here? You look a bit sort of frantic and a bit, you know." um, and yeah, got to the hospital, and always when you get to the hospital, you think you're further along than you are. But
Right.
I was probably only about 4 or 5 centimeters, and had a little ways to go. So I found that for me, the upright position, walking around, even having showers and things like that was very calming and relaxing for me, because when you have contractions, they first start, and sometimes you might only have one every 15 minutes or two, and then they build to a closer amount, whereby, you might have one every 3 minutes the closer you're coming to birth. And they usually last about 45 to maybe a minute long.
Mhm.
So I found walking around during the contraction and really just tuning into my body and being mindful in that moment and focusing as to getting through that one individual contraction. Because if our thoughts get too far ahead,
Mhm.
that's when I feel that it becomes all a little bit challenging. And then it was just important for me to rest in between, because it's quite tiring going through that, and it's a new energy in your body that you're not familiar with.
And this seems very helpful, I would say, that rather to focus on one contraction, you focus on on your whole body and how your
Mm,
body feels, rather than just on the one painful part,
yeah.
which I think it can be very helpful, right? Because then you sort of, like you said, you lose focus
Mm, mm.
and you stop seeing things around you and you stop listening. So I think thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and it's just important to figure out where you need to be and what you need at each moment in time, because your partner's very supportive, or your support person in labour, and all the staff that are
Mhm.
helping you, or it may be a home birth. However, get into your zone as to what you need, and then you can request help or a back rub or whatever you need, so that people are included. But because sometimes they're not sure what to do either, because they know that, it's obviously a pain with purpose. The purpose is that the baby's moving down, the baby's going to birth, and you're going to see that beautiful little treasure. However, you just need to work through the motion and take one little step at a time, take one little contraction at a time.
And I would just say that it's also okay to say no in certain situations, for example, to your partner, because I know some
Mm,
things might be irritating to you, especially when you're a first-time mom. You don't really know what to expect. You can read about it, you can be like a midwife, but it's different when you're going through it, by
oh,
yourself.
100%. Mm,
And I think it's important for moms to know that it's okay to say to their partner, can you just leave me alone for a little bit? I
mm,
feel like being just with myself and with the baby.
yeah,
And I think
yeah.
has to be zero guilt about this.
100%. Yeah. And I like the way because we can't read people's minds, and everyone's trying to help. So yeah, if you are upfront and do that gentle conversation with your partner or support person, then they feel more like they're helping without getting in the way. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes. And you raised a
And
very interesting topic there, that people think that, or we think that other people can read our minds. And then we assume, and then we go again into a rabbit hole and into overthinking mode, rather than just say and voice what we think and ask,
mm,
is
mm,
this what you're thinking? Because this is not very helpful to me. If you're thinking this is helpful, I'm telling you it's not. Or it's something
yeah.
as simple as that, I think can go such a long way.
100%. And people don't want to say the wrong thing when they know you're in pain or uncomfortable, and it's all new.
Yeah.
Um, I do recall also a very quiet, darkened room with some
Mhm.
soft music. So I remember arriving at the hospital and greeting that vibe in the room, and that brought about a lot of calm with me as well. And then when we got to the birthing part for my first puppy, I actually birthed on a stool. So I was sitting on a stool, and I'm sure there'll be lots of listeners out there that can relate to this with your first baby. There's a lot of pushing that you're not quite sure what you're doing. You read the books. I've been the midwife, but until you actually go through that feeling of bearing down or pushing, it's a real unique experience, and you're not sure how hard to push. You're not sure of a lot of things, really. So that's a really important time to be guided by the health professional, and really supported there as well. um, and yeah, and then my little baby Eamon was born, and it was a very treasured moment for us, Vivian, because my husband, who's at the time, but he's since passed,
Mhm.
he was adopted. So this was his first biological birth child.
Oh.
He hadn't met his biological mother at that point, and and they brought up with a beautiful adopted family. But I still remember the tears from him, and he wasn't a man that cried very often. So it was just really beautiful for me to give him that gift, that this was his first really biological blood relative.
Right. Absolutely.
Um,
And
yeah,
and
and
seeing him being born, seeing the process, what what is it leading up to and everything. I think
yeah,
it's a milestone. It's something you can't really relive.
no, no. And it was just a beautiful moment, and one of those defining moments, as we talk about, that is always a treasured memory in my mind as well.
And I think,
Um,
Annie, that you're tapping on something very important here, that when a birth can be very joyous and happy, it can also be very traumatic. And it can be brought up on, by the environment and by the staff and by the support system that's around you, essentially. But you still, after all these years, you still have it very vividly in your memory. And just as you have a happy memory, some moms can have a very traumatic memory, and it can bring up a lot of emotions. And sometimes it affects your physical health. Sometimes you have a physical reaction to certain memories. And I think this is why it's so important to, to do the research and to pick a place that you trust and pick the people you trust or choose the people you trust.
Definitely. And just touching on that, I mean, I do know personally a lot of women that have had vaginal births, and as you say, there can be some trauma associated with that. And it's important to, when you're ready, talk about that too,
Right.
because sometimes initially you feel like you can't, or people won't understand, or sometimes you actually feel dismissed. You actually feel like people do not get where you're coming from,
Mm.
and they just think that you should get over it, which we all know is not the case at all. And I know a lot of women personally that have suffered with post traumatic stress, post some births as well. But like you say, do the research, get the great support team in place. And look, we're all doing the best we can at any given moment. And that's where you've got to trust yourself and be kind and compassionate to yourself throughout the whole process of pregnancy and birthing.
Yes, I agree. I 100% agree because I think there's a lot of guilt and shame with that. Like you said, that women feel dismissed.
Mm,
They feel they withdraw within, and
mm,
there's no need for that. But then the emotions stay there, and that's also not healthy, right? So just to be, learning to be mindful, like we said in the previous episode, um, to allow yourself to feel those feelings and to recenter and
mm.
seek the help because it's not a weakness. It's a sign of healing.
Exactly, exactly. And as you say, give yourself your permission to do that. Um, the other thing I was going to touch on is I would encourage women to write a birth story about their birth, and I did that for all of my births. And I've actually got a couple here
Oh,
in front of me, and I was just having a look at them before I popped on with you. Um, and I might just read one little part to you because it actually ignites and kind of closes that little chapter of birthing as you then transition to motherhood when you go home, but it really captures things while it's in your memory. And I've actually read these birth stories to my children, who the little one we just spoke about then with my birthing is now 25 and has a baby of his own. So, so it travels the test of time when you write a birth story for your baby. So I mentioned to you how it's good to get in tune with your body, and it's interesting that I wrote here I focused on staying calm and deep breathing, walking during contractions, and sitting on the side of the bed in between to rest. I relied on my body to dictate to me as to the course of events. After all, it was initiating the events and controlling them. I was trying to harmoniously go along with it as in a team approach. So, the
oh.
big factor for me was trusting yourself,
Mhm.
trusting that your body knows what to do, and work together with that.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Annie. That was wonderful. And again, such a powerful tool that you know, you can use to, sorry, my cat, that you can use, as in you can write it. And by writing it, I feel like you own up to it. You own your story, you own your body, and that's what it's all about. We should believe that our body is still our body, even when we go into transition and you know, we are giving birth. We can have a support system around us, but we shouldn't allow for them to take away the power, you know? And I think this is such a powerful tool. Even, you know, some women can even write it beforehand, like how they picture
Yes.
it, how they visualize it, because I think visualization is such a strong, powerful tool again that you can
It
use with
is.
being mindful. So wonderful, so lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, that's okay. That's I just encourage women to do that birth story because the time will go after the puppy's born,
Yeah.
and you'll forget things.
Yeah.
And it actually brings back a lot of good memories because there's always some good memory in there. I know there's can be some challenging events as well, and it's great to get it all out of your head on paper.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, Annie, and how did you feel after birth?
Um, I think you always look at your belly. You look at your belly and go, "Wow, that little baby was in there."
Yeah.
And it's quite jelly like your belly afterwards. Like particularly the second and third child I had, I really noticed how. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I just mean that you do take notice of your body because it's been out here pregnant for so long. Um, and I felt like I had energy and I breastfed all my babies. I was grateful that I was able to breastfeed because it is a challenging task to breastfeed. And even though I had learnt how to do that, when you've got to do it yourself, it's something that you just got to roll with it and work out. And you're learning and evolving with the baby. But I really enjoyed that part, and I really enjoyed that moment with just myself and the baby. As much as I love Dad when he went home, it's just such a beautiful time of
Yeah.
quiet sharing and reflecting on meeting that new baby that's been in your uterus for 9 months. So
It's
yeah,
almost
just
like
a special moment.
you know your baby, but then again, you don't really know how they're gonna look like. Then you
No.
meet them, and then it's, you know, it's your best friend, and you're, you know, you are his or her first love, her biggest, your
Mm-hmm.
biggest, you know, their biggest idol. And I think that's just so miraculous. So I understand where
Mm.
you're coming from. And I just wanted to touch on the breastfeeding that, yes, if you have to learn it by yourself and you encounter some struggles, it can really, really be almost as a trial by fire.
Mm-hmm.
Because women
Mm-hmm.
who push through, I think they're just absolutely superheroes because, you know, you learn to breastfeed by breastfeeding, but there are just some little things that can help you so much, but you need someone to tell you, you know. So
Definitely, definitely. And I mean, when you're in the hospital or even if you're birthing at home, it's good to have someone there when you're attaching baby to the breast because it is a new experience for you, just to make sure that you've got that latch properly to reduce
exactly.
any damaged nipples.
Yeah.
And I mean, breastfeeding is much harder than bottle feeding. Okay, I can assure you of that as a midwife, a child health nurse, and a mother. However, it's so rewarding. I mean, I call breast milk liquid gold. It's full of all those beautiful antibodies and all that good stuff for baby, and they just enjoy it so much. And for you to give that gift to your baby is a great thing. However, sometimes that doesn't happen, and we can only, as I've always said, do the best that we can, and that is enough always. So, I mean, breastfeeding is challenging. However, you can get there. It takes a little bit of work, and people just think it happens naturally, but it's not the case at all. There's so much to learn about it, about when to breastfeed, how long for. Not that we put times on things anymore with feeding, and just following the lead of your baby. And there's so much information out there that people get so confused. And I know, even as a breastfeeding mother, you always worry about, have I got enough milk?
Exactly. Yeah. I was
But you
just about
can't
to
see
say that.
it.
Yeah. You can see, and doctors tend to weight the baby before and after
Mm,
using different scales. It's very unreliable to me. I think just
hmm.
feeling the baby and like tuning in, just listening
Yeah,
to the baby. Does he have enough what diapers? Is he
that's right.
content? Does he look happy? Is he crying constantly? Does he seem fussy? Can he not sleep? Well, maybe he's hungry. All these signs can help you. And then also, as you as a mom, do you feel engorged? Do you have pain? Is it
Yes,
a not joyful experience? Because breastfeeding should never hurt. If it hurts,
that's right.
there is a problem.
Yeah,
100% of the time. But almost all the problems can be solved if caught soon enough. But you're right. We still tend to, as a society, to put time on how
yeah.
long we should breastfeed. When it's like really babies don't have a watch, they don't know what time it is.
No,
They
no,
didn't learn
that's
it in
right.
our belly, and neither should we put importance to that because it's bonding time. It is me and you, and the baby will tell you at all times, I've had enough, or this breast is empty because I drank everything. Give me
Exactly.
the second one.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And
yeah,
they do show you those little bits of behavior. They pop on the breast, and
yeah,
sometimes you can even hear them swallowing. And then towards the end, they can think, oh, this has slowed down a bit. I love my tucker. And become a little bit fussy. But that's all how you learn and evolve together. And that's part of the fun too,
yeah,
of just trusting and talking to your baby and saying, we got this together. We're going to work through this, and we're going to be
exactly.
okay.
Yeah,
And there's always someone to ask for help,
absolutely.
always.
Yes.
Mm. And I must just touch on that, because being a midwife myself,
Hmm.
I probably did put a lot more pressure on myself to perform and be that perfect mother,
Hmm.
because I thought, well, I knew I've done this, I've learned all this, I should know.
Right.
But when it's your own baby and all those emotions are there, and of course you love this baby and want to make sure that everything's okay, you do start to put that pressure on yourself to perform like an expert,
Yeah.
which we all know is impossible.
Yeah.
So it's about just checking in with where you're at, and that you're not got these unrealistic expectations going on, because that can increase
Yeah.
anxiety and overwhelm, and affect your overall mothering experience, really.
And I think we also talked about it in the last episode. We talked about setting up, having unrealistic expectations and to
Mm, mm.
ask for help if we don't see it, or if we can set realistic expectations, to have someone to help us with that, because I think a lot of things can crash on having unrealistic expectations, and I can totally see how that is just like a cloud over your head, with you being a midwife and you wanting to perform 100%, but it's life and it's your baby and it's your body, and it takes its own course, and
Mm.
you are doing your best at any given moment. And if you knew how to do better, you would. And I think this is so important to know, like you said, that you're enough. I am doing
Yeah.
enough. Just
Mm.
take a break.
I know. And I mean, just on that, a little funny story was, um, I remember my second baba. So I had the boy first, and then a girl second, and two boys after that. So I had four kids in, working that at 6 years. Um, One day, my daughter, she was only about 6 weeks or something, but she was trying to pass a poo, and it wouldn't come out, and I was freaking out in my brain, going, "Oh my god, she's going to rip her bottom!" And like, you do, because what you want is to keep your baby safe,
Yeah.
protected, or at all costs.
Yeah.
So any little bit of things like that happen, your mind can really, spiral into the what ifs and the, yeah. And of course, off to the doctors we went, because that, I find, if you have a concern, getting that concern looked at or a question answered, that calms you and you can get back on track. Just
Yes.
no question is a silly question. So after the doctor I went, and of course, as soon as we walked into the doctor's room, she passed that poo, just like that. But I could see her straining, because I'm changing that. Go, oh my gosh, what,
Yeah.
you just, because they're so little, and you're just, you just want that safe and secure space for them. So you're always
Absolutely.
on alert. Mm.
And you touched on such an important topic here, that almost having reassurance or having someone to tell you this is okay, and to normalize asking silly questions. Because what question is really silly? Is there a question like that? Because if you're a first time mom, everything is different, and you might think this is a dumb question, but no, if it helps
Mm.
you, if you need this answered, ask. Just don't think about
Definitely.
it. Just ask, because it's gonna be in your mind and you're gonna keep thinking about it until you overthink it, and you lose track. You stop seeing things, and you start seeing things you want to see. And that's not good, obviously. So
No, definitely not. Yeah, always ask the questions. And I mean, we have some 24-hour hotlines here too, that
yeah,
you can ring up, and sometimes you just need to talk to someone. You don't realize till you look back that you were overreacting, so to speak. And I don't mean that disrespectfully either, but you can reflect on things and think, oh, I probably was just in a worry mode. But the quality in that is that you want to keep your baby safe and protected. So
exactly.
there's always an underlying intention and quality as to why, you're worrying at that time and may have a question that needs answering so that you can move forward.
Absolutely. And thank you for saying that. I think this is a very great and important reminder.
Mm, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Annie, if I can ask you, was your second birth different from the first one, or were you expecting something similar?
Um, the big thing with the second one was I did not know I was having a girl.
Mm-hmm.
So eyes were on the genitals as soon as the baby came out, because we were shocked. Not shocked, but we thought, wow, we got our girl. So that was a big thing. I felt like I was a little bit more knowledgeable about the pushing stage, particularly that end stage. And for me, I was so surprised. And I remember my partner at the time saying, gosh, that was quick, meaning that, because there's a little bit more time with the pushing as your body's adjusting and getting used to that with the first puppy, even though your body knows what to do. But the second one, I was like, wow, you know, you felt so empowered and like, wow, this is really, I'm getting good at this
So,
type
how,
thing.
how many hours did that take in total? The second one.
Yeah. Interestingly, and I'm a midwife, so I know what the textbook says, but everyone's unique. My first birth was 8 hours,
Mm-hmm.
because some you've got to time it when you're in true labour. You can have little
Yeah.
contractions all over the place days before, or 24 hours before. So the first labour was 8, then it went 642. Would you believe? Which is
Wow.
very similar to what the textbook would say.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So it went
um,
down with each birth.
yeah, and that's very common. And fortunately for me too, everyone's different, but I didn't have any complications at all. I didn't really have any set plans that I wasn't going to have, gas, or I wasn't going to have this or that. But it worked out that in the end, for my 4 births, I didn't require any pain relief or anything there. So that was
So none of your
just the way it
births
worked out.
were medicated, right?
No, no, yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah. And we're talking 22 years ago. I'm not trying to show my age, because it still feels so real,
Yeah.
because it's just so special to me. And I've been working with mums and bubs and, in birthing suites for years as well. Um, so yeah, no, it's just all good.
Wonderful. So what helped you what was it, you just recentering to yourself and being mindful again that helps you with the pain? Is that it?
Yeah. To me, it's about knowing, practicing some breathing
Mm-hmm.
beforehand. And I mean, you're a doula, so you're the right person to work with because you do a lot of those techniques.
Yeah.
Um, and I think preparing for it during pregnancy, just like you prepare for anything. I mean, if people are coming over for dinner, you prepare you
Yeah.
prepare the shopping, the food, and all that sort of thing. And pregnancy is so much about the baby and getting the baby stuff right and going to the classes and
Mm.
but looking at yourself, discovering what can I be doing that's going to prepare me and my mind, because I really believe it's about mindset,
Absolutely.
to work through this birth so that I can have a more calmer and pleasant experience. And a lot of that does come with some relaxation techniques, sometimes meditation, and also breathing techniques. And there's so many varieties of those around, as you know.
Yeah, and I
um,
love them all.
yeah, me too. And it does keep you focused
Hmm.
in the moment so that your mind doesn't go off to the overwhelm.
Yes,
And that's where you want to stay.
absolutely.
And and that will pass on to your baby as well. The calm mother will pass on to your baby.
Exactly. That was my thought. Like what you feel, the baby feels. And if
Mm.
you're stressed, the baby will feel that too. And in some cases, the baby can be stressed too, or can become stressed. But it's interesting what you pointed out that a lot of the classes out there for moms only puts focus on the baby. It's almost as if
Mm.
the baby is supposed to come out on its own. I'll do that.
Yes,
You
yes.
just push. I'll do that.
Mm.
But it's really working together. And I really like
That's right.
that. I really like classes that focus on the mom as
Mm.
well.
Mm.
Because I think
Mm.
it's important. I think because you're giving her power just by talking to her, just by acknowledging that she's a part of this too, that she does 50% at least
Definitely.
in this whole story. And that is major, I think, to just tell it, to just say that to the mother.
Mm. And I think a lot of women, and I know before I became a life coach, you don't really know how to be present in one moment to the next. And I know I was more anxious and more overwhelmed, and a lot of that was because of my thinking patterns. So exploring that during pregnancy as a mum and working on what's going on there and how can I bring that into a peaceful state is very helpful when you're going into the labor as well. And then you're owning and being accountable for how you're feeling, what you're needing, and being kind to yourself in that moment, which
Yeah.
is so
How
important.
did you
Because
feel after your second birth?
I felt really great. Again, I'm a sibling of three others, so I grew up with four children in our family, and I always wanted four. So getting the girl second is just something special because everyone wants, however, we're happy with whatever sex we get.
Mhm.
Knowing that I was likely to have four children, having the girl second was great. Um, and I think it was more about me spending time and realizing that the first child, who was now 18 months,
Mhm.
they came first. And they're going to know there's another um, baby in the home that's going to take up mummy's attention. So I was very conscious of tending to the older boy first in situations and really including him in the family. So I felt like it wasn't that long ago since I'd had my first baby, so I felt like I really knew the journey that was ahead of me. However, it was about ensuring that the firstborn was not scooted to the side, that as a family we all came together because I suppose a part of me did think, Viviane, that he was there first, and that was important to acknowledge, and not just sort of run after the baby all the time because the baby, you know, not that I let the baby scream or anything, but if the toddler needed something, then might attend to that little one before the other. So you're sort of balancing that. A second child in car seats, a second child, putting them to bed at night. Yeah.
And
But as
that's a
far,
big thing.
yeah,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just
that's
wanted
okay.
to say it's a big thing for moms and parents to navigate through two children. How do you introduce the other baby? How so there's no rivalry, so they don't feel casted out almost,
Mm, mm,
and I think that's very important what you said.
yeah. And I think it's important while you're pregnant and they can visually see, especially when you're showing quite a lot, to talk about that baby's in the tummy. And I remember drawing two eyes, a nose where my navel was, and a smiley face.
Oh,
And I've got a photo with my first bubby to really include that and just talk about babies in there and babies happy, and we're going to, have happy times together with your new brother or sister. And they talk about when you're breastfeeding with your second or third bubby to, have a little book there that you might read to the little one while you're breastfeeding so that they're included as well,
yeah,
and not just like wait over there while I feed. So that,
yeah,
yeah. So it's
exactly,
all about smooth transitions and just including,
absolutely.
letting the older boy touch the baby and how to be gentle with the
Hmm.
baby.
Yeah, include him being so he can feel he's helping too. He's helping
Mm.
raise the baby, he's helping mom. And can I ask you, did you ever do tandem feeding, meaning that you breastfed both?
I did not, no. um, I'm just trying to remember with Eamon, I think I breastfed till 9 months.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to lie, I loved breastfeeding close to a year because you don't get a period.
Yeah, true.
I had to swing that one in. Yeah, so it's a long time, like, because we all know that it's not contraception though, even if you're breastfeeding 24/7, you can still, release an egg and possibly get pregnant. But yeah, most of mine, just trying to remember, probably the third born, he, I found it hard to get him off the breast. Like he was probably 15 months, and that's okay. I just went with that when he was ready. And then the fourth birth, my husband at the time had to have emergency surgery, so it's a long story, but I had to like quit breastfeeding because there was
Mhm.
a medical concern with him,
Right.
and I had to be up at the hospital basically. So that was really interesting because some babies who breastfeed won't take the bottle, but my fourth child did do that, who had no choice. But it can be a worrying time because some babies will not just transition from breast to bottle really quickly. Yeah.
And also there, again, what you said, I don't think there should be any guilt if a mom has to stop breastfeeding for any reason, whether it's her mental health or there's been a history of, just abuse and she's just not comfortable because some moms really want to and then they find out it's not for them and that's perfectly okay, I think. Because I think trying in the first place is the thing. Just to give it a
Exactly.
try. And if you don't, it's fine. Okay. Um,
Hmm.
and I think this is very important again to say that, guilt can start sneaking in on us,
Yes,
but it
definitely.
shouldn't. It shouldn't because even if you don't give the breast milk, which we said it does equal to liquid gold. It doesn't mean that you're less of a mother just because of that. You're not.
No.
You're still there emotionally. You're still there physically for the baby, and they know. And I think
Mm,
that is the takeaway.
definitely. You can still provide that secure, safe, loving, bonding base, whether you breastfeed or bottle feed.
Yeah.
100%. Because I've done both. And, I can only look at my kids are grown up now, 19 to 25, and I wouldn't be able to pick who was breastfed or bottle fed. Um,
Yeah.
and I think, as you say, you choose during pregnancy what you'd like to do, and go with your intentions, get the support around that. And if you give things your best shot, and for various reasons they don't work out as planned, because so many things in life don't work out as planned, then you flex to what you need to do as a mum and for your
Exactly.
baby. Yeah.
Exactly. And we're coming back to setting realistic expectations and accounting for life happens. And if it does, it's all right. We'll change and we'll just go with the flow. And we don't have to feel all these nasty, self-invoked feelings of guilt and shame.
And I think that's an important point that you brought up there, where go with the flow. That can be hard for a lot of people to do, because often we're very organized before we have a baby, and there's a lot of uncertainty and
Yeah.
changes that come with having a baby. So I think it's really good to reflect on, how do you as a mum manage uncertainty
Mhm.
and challenges during your pregnancy, so
Yeah.
that then you can be better prepared for how that's going to work when the baby comes along. Because as you know, things happen. We don't know how the baby's behavior or feeding or sleep's going to be. And you do have to go with the flow a little bit. And that can be a big challenge for a lot of people. So it's important to just prepare yourself for, how will I manage that? What sort of things am I preparing for my future self as a mother, for all the new things that are going to come my way?
And this is fantastic exercise to also, again, be mindful and grow as a person, because you are essentially creating contingency plans and you are looking within to see what might trigger you, what
Mm-hmm.
might be stressful to you, and you are figuring it out in a safe mode. And
That's right.
once it's real, you know what to do, or you prepare as best as you can to know what to do.
Mm. And as you say, because you've prepared, you've got something to go to, like a strategy. Oh, this is what I thought I would do. I'm going to follow that strategy, and see if it works out for you on that occasion, or if you have to change your strategy. But if you've got something, then it's good to just fall back on yourself with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderfully said, Annie. Thank you for sharing so much wisdom with us today.
Thanks.
Um, but I'm gonna rewind and go back to you said 8642, right?
Yes, yes,
So your third birth was 4 hours.
yes.
Wonderful. And so
Yes, they got
how
they
did was that different from the first two?
look. I must admit, my births were fairly similar, because I did have them all in a birth centre environment where you stay for 24 hours and then go home. So because it's like anything, if things work well, you keep on that path.
Mhm.
So I kept with the path of tuning into my body, breathing through contractions, resting in between, taking each contraction one at a time. But yeah, the main difference was that the births were less time consuming. So um, that was a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, they're still just as special as each other, though. They're still very unique in their own way. And even the fourth child was, even though it was 2 hours. I do remember, like, because I had four kids in 6 years, that again, I'm going to talk about the belly. I just remember thinking, wow, there's that belly again, And you
Absolutely.
can actually feel through your belly, the uterus, which has expanded so much,
Mhm.
to hold and support baby during pregnancy. You can actually feel that, because it takes that little time to go down after birth.
That's
So,
fascinating. And
yeah.
let me just touch on real quick on the thing that a lot of moms, I want to ask you eventually, how did you cope with going, well, not back, but just going forward and adapting to your new body, because what I wanted to say was that a lot of moms feel like they lost their body, and or they need to bounce back to it as soon as possible. But I think that after birth, your body just naturally changes, and it's
It
never
does.
going to be the same. You hosted
No.
another human being, and it's okay. And it has upgrades. It has things it didn't have before, and that's okay. And yes, it's going to shrink. It's going to come back to its normal size and everything. But it's not like we have to bounce back to something, hold on to a fond memory or a picture of ourselves, because that's just not going to happen. But it's still us. We never lost ourselves in the process. So I just wanted to ask you, when it happened to you,
Yes.
how did that affect you, or did you notice some changes?
I noticed changes mainly in the pelvic area and also in the tummy. As I say, it does feel a little bit like jelly.
Mhm.
Um, and obviously the breast changes, they were quite larger. I just went with looking after me and baby, at least for the first 6 weeks.
Mhm.
And then just gently, I think you can gently transition to walking, or, you're taking your baby out. I mean, it can be tricky now with COVID in some settings, but just for a walk in the pram and getting out in the fresh air and things like that. Looking after your well-being that way without putting the pressure on yourself of getting back to that perfect figure, so to speak. And I know a lot of women who are into a lot of fitness during their pregnancy. Um, they often get support and know the right ways to do that
Mhm.
postnatally as well. But I think, again, just going with the flow, you'll know when you're ready, and setting yourself little tiny goals. Oh, I'd like to maybe start getting a little bit fitter. So I might try and do one walk this week rather than saying I'm going to walk 5 days this week. Because if you just say the one walk, if you do more, great, but you're not putting the pressure on yourself. So you just start with small little goals like that to get to where you want to be.
Absolutely. And I think that what you said, that focusing more on your mental health, mental well-being. Do I feel okay? Am I okay? Does this feel good to me? Am I ready for a walk? I think this helps the process. I think this helps the healing process, and it makes it faster, because when you're okay in your mind,
Mm,
it'll show in your body naturally,
definitely,
rather
definitely.
than putting stress on your, well, I have to exercise, I have to do this, but you're miserable. You're absolutely miserable inside. That's not going to, even if you have that perfect body, whatever it might be in your
Mm,
mind, you're not going to be happy with it, because
no.
you're not happy inside.
That's right. And you just made me think then about the language we use too. We use a lot of shoulds. And just by changing that to, I could go for a walk. Yeah, I might do that. Rather than, I should go for a walk.
Yeah.
Look at my body now.
Mm-hmm.
Feel the difference?
Yep.
It's all about the language, because your brain's always listening.
Yep.
So it's always listening to what you're saying to it. And then that's going to impact on how you feel in your body. So
Absolutely.
it's even changing that to, I could,
Yeah.
or I will, but not should. You don't have to should anything.
Exactly. Exactly. And it sounds
Everything's
so
a
much
choice.
nicer. Yeah.
Mm, mm,
It's
yeah.
a choice, exactly. And yes, and but we have it so automatic, the responses and the way we talk to us. And yeah, it's pausing and thinking about, what did I just say to myself? Let me be
Mm,
nice to myself. Just like I'm nice to my baby, right?
exactly, exactly. And like you say, it happens on automatic because we've been around for a long time. We're experts of ourselves. We've come with a package of experiences from childhood and all the things that we've been exposed to our whole life. So all of that is just floating around there in what we call our subconscious brain. And that's the part that does run on automatic. So this is why these thoughts and certain languages and words we use just come out automatically.
Yeah.
And it's good, as you say, to stop and just think, what's going on for me right now? What sort of thoughts am I thinking? Are they thoughts that are resourceful or are they unhelpful at the moment? And just
Absolutely.
reflect on that.
And we talked about it in the previous episode when we talked about the thoughts, what you just said, whether they're actually helping us or whether they're just really just nagging on us and trying to get the worst out of us. So yeah,
exactly.
wonderful. Well, Annie, this has been wonderful. Absolutely just wonderful.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it too.
My last question would be to you. Is there a message you would like to say to future moms?
A message to future mums. I think be proud of who you are, know that you're enough, and always trust your gut, because for me, it's been right every time. And just know that you have all power within you and just flow with that. Definitely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This is so wonderful.
You're welcome.
So Annie, last question. You're an amazing midwife, you are a life coach. So my question is obviously, where can people find you and reach you?
I have a Facebook group and it's called Me to Mum. And I've also got a signature program which I've called The Secrets to Enjoying Motherhood. And I share that program with expectant mums. And the bonus that I give them is I follow through to after when they have the baby as well. So there's always that connection there to flow on afterwards. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So Me to Mum on Facebook.
And people can reach you through there.
Yes. That's probably the best way. And then I can connect with them one-on-one as needed. And I offer free clarity calls or discovery calls, just because some people don't know about coaching or they haven't heard of it, and just to see if we're a good fit. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for today, Annie. It was a pleasure. And
You're welcome.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every last bit of it. And I could talk about this for hours on end, but
I know.
to
We are lucky to be women.
Yes,
We are
absolutely.
strong and free. Actually, I was just going to mention one more thing. I am there's a book launch which is happening on the 16th of September, and the book is called Strong and Free. And it's some inspirational and empowering stories about women. So I've actually written a chapter in that book as well, because that's my goal in life, is to empower women to know that they're good enough so that they can be fulfilled and live purposeful lives. So that's another exciting thing, that book launch called Strong and Free, and it'll be available on Amazon.
Amazing. Congratulations, Annie. I didn't know that, but yeah, you go and tell your story, because people need to hear it.
No, it's really good, and it's really great because this book is all the proceeds go to women in Africa, because we're supporting them to grow businesses and basically empower them to get out of poverty for their families as well. So that's why I wanted to be a part of this book, because often in the world, women are very strong. We know we're strong, resilient females. However, there's still a lot of people that aren't free in the world, and I know the women in Africa aren't necessarily free from poverty as yet. So the proceeds of this book will help support them to start a business and grow that to support their families.
Wonderful, Annie. Thank you so much for sharing everything with us today.
You're welcome.
But I want to do one last thing with you. We did last time, and you said to look into the mirror and give yourself a high five. So we're doing it.
High five! I am my own best friend.
Absolutely, yes. Well, thank you.
Only way to be.
And just like that, we're at the end again with Annie. These were her amazing birth stories. So if you liked it, please hit the subscribe button now so me and you can share her wisdom together. If you're a mama or a midwife just like Annie is and you have a story you'd like to share with me, or you know of someone who has a story they'd like to share with me, don't hesitate and reach out to me either via Facebook or LinkedIn, where I can be found under my name, Viviane Shima, or via my email address, which is birthbyviviane@gmail.com. So don't hesitate, I'm ready. That is it for me for now. Stay tuned for more amazing episodes. Bye.